Hi, we're Group 8 and our presentation is called PHON, which focuses on lowering the obesity rate in Mississippi by implementing healthier lifestyles. Obesity is largely preventable with supportive environments and communities to help facilitate a healthy lifestyle. Our priority population was obese and overweight children in Mississippi grades K through 5th grade.
For our program, 3 of the things we wanted to evaluate were as follows: the children's ability to eat 3 to 5 servings of fruit and vegetables per day, participation in physical exercise for at least 30 minutes per day, and the importance of a healthy diet for families.
To help support our program, we decided to use the social cognitive theory. This theory focuses on social learning. Students can learn about healthy lifestyles from their teachers so they can perform these healthy behaviors themselves and become models for their peers. We want students to adopt a healthy lifestyle that will eventually help students not to be classified as overweight or obese.
The research design we chose to use was the quasi-experimental design. This allowed us to observe causal effects of an intervention using a control group and an experimental group. In our study, we used 2 different schools. Instead of using individuals as a unit of randomization, we used schools. Our study would have a minimal contamination because each student is enrolled only to one school for the period of the experiment. Our research incorporates a pre-test and post-test design, allowing us to see any changes prior to the intervention and after the intervention. Here you can see that School 1 is our control group and they were given the intervention indicated by the X, while School 2 is our experimental group because they were not given the intervention. Both schools will get the pre-test, post-test, and nutritional and physical lessons, but only School 1 gets the physical activity intervention.
We decided to do a convenience sampling with 2 schools in Mississippi in the same district, and each school has similar amount of overweight and obese children, and there are about 600 students per school, grades K to 5.
We will be taking a pre-test, mid-test, and post-test on the participating students. The data collected from these tests are used for descriptive statistics, which helps us organize and describe the characteristics of our school groups. We will conduct a survey using the Likert scale. Choices for response include strongly disagree, disagree, neither disagree or agree, and strongly agree. We will count the amount of responses in each ordinal category. We will also measure body weights and calculate BMI. The BMI number will indicate whether the student is underweight, healthy, overweight, obese, and extremely obese. We will count the amount of students in each nominal category. Our dependent variable will be the number of people per response and category. Our data will help us see changes in attitudes, values, and behaviors of children participating in the program. We will be using univariate analysis, which includes summary counts, frequency, distribution, central tendency, spread, and variation. An example of how we will use this analysis is how many people had a BMI in the overweight range. We will also be using bivariate analysis and conduct a t-test. An example of how we use this analysis is there a difference in the amount of students that agree to exercise at least 30 minutes per day between the control and comparison group after concluding the PHON program?
For our first evaluation question, which assessed the children's ability to eat 3 to 5 servings of fruit and vegetables per day, we can see that our program did have a significant impact on the children's eating behaviors. Our objective was that 65% of the students will report agree or strongly agree to eating 3 to 5 servings of fruit and vegetables per day, and after the intervention, 66% of the students in the control group did report agree or strongly agree. Therefore, our objective was reached. For our second evaluation questions, we asked participants whether they value participating in physical exercises for at least 30 minutes per day, which measures our objective goal of at least 60% of students reporting agree or strongly agree. Although our intervention program showed an increase in the students that agreed to participate in 30 minutes of exercise versus the comparison group, there was not a significant increase. Only 48% reported agree or strongly agree instead of the goal of 60%. Therefore, our objective was not reached. We did a t-test for question 2, and our hypothesis was that students in the control group will have an increase in their values of exercise for at least 30 minutes per day. Our result was that since the p-value was not less than 0.5, we must reject that hypothesis because there is no significant difference between the 2 groups.
For our third evaluation question, we assessed the children's belief that a healthy diet is important to their family. From the results, there is an obvious difference between the pre-test and post-test for both the control group and comparison group. Our objective was 60% of students will report agree or strongly agree that a healthy diet is important to themselves and their family. After the intervention, 80% of the students in the control group and 66% of the students in the comparison group reported agree or strongly agree. Thus, our objective was reached for both groups.
Body mass index of the students from both the control group and the comparison group are taken pre, mid, and post-intervention by officials to track whether the intervention is successful. Our objective is that 60% of students will have a 10% decrease in their BMI. Before the intervention, 405 students, 68%, were classified as overweight, obese, and extremely obese. After the intervention, 323 students, 54%, were classified as overweight, obese, and extremely obese, which is a 14% difference. Therefore, our objective was met.
Looking at our data, we can conclude that the intervention was successful in increasing the consumption of fruit and vegetables and the importance of a healthy diet, as well as decreasing body mass index. The intervention was somewhat successful in increasing the motivation to exercise 30 minutes per day. Thus, from all of these findings, we can conclude that increasing knowledge about nutrition and physical activity may be easy, but changing the actual behaviors is more difficult. As we evaluate our program, we encountered some limitations. First was the issue of convenience sampling. For the sake of our objectives, we intentionally chose to work with schools and communities where the prevalence of obesity was higher. On top of being limited to only 2 schools, our samples were not randomized, so it did not make them the best representative of the overall population. Another limitation was the self-reporting of young children, which is a significant threat to external validity. Because the children know they are being surveyed, they may care more about being portrayed in a good light rather than answering truthfully, possibly giving false information. This strong tendency for social desirability would result in biased and less accurate data. Lastly, our sample of K-5 children may have been too ambitious for our research design. Working with multiple grades leaves room for more threats to internal validity. For instance, by working with different grade levels, we would not have been able to control for the different ages, stages of puberty, natural growth or weight loss of the individual children, or their overall knowledge.